Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you, Angela?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. So I am Safiya,
I'm Angela.
and this is the
Wellness show. And today, what are we talking about, Safiya?
we're talking about the menopause,
MashaAllah.
perimenopause, premenopause, menopause. We're going to explain to you all of this term, but we're going to have quite an exciting show. Inshallah, we're helping. We have quite a lot of contributions from people, callings, and all sorts.
Tell our audience about your visit to that retreat and what encouraged us to do the show.
Exactly. So we had already a show previously, if you want to get back to more sort of the details of the hormones, everything, which is on YouTube. It was hormones and menopause a few months ago. But recently, what prompted us to redo a show more specifically on the menopause and our experience was because I was getting quite run down by it all. And you said, you really need a retreat. And
I know.
was like, yes, as if
You can pull it out of your hat.
Exactly. And guess what? I got a message from a friend actually who's going to contribute today.
Just within a few days of me encouraging you to go to a retreat.
I made a dua that evening, and I said, oh Allah, you just need to help me. Please show me the way. Because I was considering different options, which we discussed as well today. And then my friend sends me a message saying, oh, I think you'd be interested in this, because she remembers seeing our previous show on the menopause and the hormones.
MashaAllah.
And it was a retreat, a menopause retreat.
Of all things.
And we're going to talk to Yasmin Watson, who is the founder of Halima Muslima, Wellbeing and Retreats, who was the organizer of this absolutely, mashallah, amazing 3 days in Buckinghamshire.
And that's encouraging for other sisters to do the same, inshallah.
Definitely.
So we're going to put the details of this and at the end of our video when we upload it to YouTube, okay?
You'll have all the details, all the contact details, also all the references of everything we mentioned on this show, inshallah. But yes, it was amazing, and I think they are pioneers. We'll discuss it with Yasmin in a few minutes, inshallah, in about 10 minutes. We will talk about all of these, her aims, what she's about, but also what the different means she used to get us to tap into those different resources we have within ourselves to help us.
Because despite all the testimonies you'll hear today, know that as a perimenopausal woman, you're not ill, you're not deficient.
Oh no.
You are transitioning from one state to another, from one part of your life to the next part of your life, and it makes you older and wiser. You're not sick.
No.
You're just going through a few bumps.
So look at it this way. When you're about 10, 12 years old, do you tell your daughter, or does the medical professionals tell your daughters, oh, you're ill, you're sick, you need drugs, you need this, you need that, because you're transitioning from being a young girl to being a woman with, having hormonal changes in period and physical development? No, we don't hear that or say that. So why is it that when this happens at the end of your cyclical time and menstruating time, do we tell women, you're ill, these are symptoms, these are, you need drugs and things, you need to be treated?
No, you're going through the change, and you can look at it as a positive thing, though you're going through different feelings, like you're going through sweats and pains, and it's just your body adjusting.
Yes, and I would rather call them discomforts, physical manifestations, mental manifestations, emotional manifestations of that change. They're not easy, okay? And for some women, they're actually quite dramatic. But there are different ways
There's things we can do to cushion that, the change. So let's read a contribution from a sister at the retreat.
Yes.
And her experience. She gave it to us in written form, so I will just read her witness, okay,
And her name
testimony.
Her
name is Maryarun Barak. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly.
Yeah, Maya is good, yeah.
So here we go. I would like to say, as Asian women, we aren't educated as much as we should be on the topic of menopause. We don't have the support of the husband or children, as it is not recognized. Lots of sisters in the ethnic minority are experiencing this. However, when I went to the retreat, it was openly discussed in a non-judgmental, very educational and beneficial way, which was not expected and once in a lifetime wonderful experience. Not only was I educated more on this topic, but I met lots of wonderful sisters who are going through the same or similar experience as myself. It's nice to know we all or were new to this and we can openly discuss anything with no judgment. I don't know what really menopause was. I didn't really know what it was. I had a couple of times hot sweats when I was praying, and I mentioned it to some friends. They said it was probably because of the coronavirus vaccinations. When I went to the Menopause Retreat, that's when I really understood what menopause really was, and then linked everything with it, and had a great understanding of the symptoms. I had recently vaginal dryness and lots of migraines that I never used to have, and I haven't experienced other symptoms since. But I'm ready, and I feel the retreat has done wonders for me, and I feel wiser now. Going to this retreat made me realize I can be open to how I feel and what I'm experiencing, as this is frowned upon and dismissed in the Asian community. What I feel is normal and mental health-wise should be more talked about, as this is what I learned from the retreat.
The end. Well, no, actually, it's the end of one thing and the beginning of another. Yes, in that retreat, you know, it was really strange, because I have been to several retreats and and gatherings and weekends and camps and things, and they're always really, really nice, because you meet just lovely people, mashallah, everywhere. You know, you just feel like you're just meeting your extended family, right? But for this particular event, I don't think no one was prepared for this. We saw each other, we introduced each other, we had a little game, kind of, you know, icebreaker, to learn our names and make sure we kind of got familiar. We're about 18 women, about 18, 20. But because we got
so much
together,
wisdom in one room.
Yes, absolutely. And because we were there for the same purpose of understanding ourselves and trying to find ways of helping ourselves feeling better, we just gelled immediately, as if we were long lost friends. It was really, I still get emotional when I think, we have this little WhatsApp group as one does. Obviously we keep in touch like that. And we keep on, you know, messaging each other. And then when I contacted some of them contacted me when I asked if they wanted to contribute today, and one of them said, can we just record on Zoom? And so I called on Zoom, and I was like, I was just so excited to see her again. Like, the bond over, like, virtually instantly was really, really strong. And I think it's because we all recognized in each other we were in the same boat together for that particular thing. True. And it so many as well. I do talk a lot about these things now, and we talk, you and I, a lot. But some of these women you'll hear, it was the first time they were talking to someone about their symptoms, or the first time with someone who had the same things as them, and it wasn't a doctor who could not understand what was wrong.
It's very strange to me that that's the case for a lot of women.
Yeah.
That they're going through something monumental and they don't know what they're going through.
So we have Yasmin Watson, who's the founder of Halima Muslima Wellbeing Retreats. So, assalamu alaikum, Yasmin.
Alaikum salam.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Alhamdulillah, thank you for inviting me.
Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to have you. I was just so excited to have found your retreats, but particularly that menopause retreat, which was this big word that just jumped at me from the poster, and I was so excited because that was an answer to my dua, as I explained earlier to our listeners. So just before we talk about the retreats, just tell us more about yourself, Yasmin, please. You're an art therapist and you've set up this Wellbeing organization. Can you tell us more, please?
Yeah, well, I originally wanted to set up Halima Retreats, it was originally called. It was about 7 years ago. I had been through a very difficult marriage, and I felt it was such a hard time. I just wish I could have gone on a retreat or something to kind of help support me through that process. I had felt very isolated and everything, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to have something like a retreat for sisters to recover and to be Islamic. And at the time we were doing the retreats down in Spain, so we did quite a number of retreats down in Spain, and then we started doing them at St. Catherine's, which you know. And so just doing a different variety. I like to pick different subjects, different themes, just to see what, you know, just to see what the sisters need and want. So that's the idea behind it. And a few years ago, I qualified as an art therapist. So I work alongside Jemana Mean as well, and she's an art therapist as well. So we try and bring that therapeutic element, because I think so many sisters kind of really need that kind of sense of looking deeper and sort of, you know, seeing their lives in context of Allah's plan, and to have that sisterhood and support. And I think we all need it sometimes in our lives.
Yeah. That was something that surprised us all, because we used to, more or less, some of us, you know, we used to going somewhere and talking about things, talking.
Yeah, women love to get together with their friends.
And then we were asked to do a clay, sculpt something with clay.
Oh,
and
nice.
You know, the first reaction you have is, oh, it needs to look like something. It needs to be nice. It needs to be well. Everybody was apologizing. Oh, I'm not really good at this. Oh, it looks like nothing. Some of them, it just ended up being like a heap of blobs of things. But art therapy or art is just an expression of what's within you. And once we'd broken those barriers that we'd set ourselves, it was really interesting what came out.
Mashallah.
And this is what I like.
That's the power of art therapy. It can be incredibly insightful and often quite a surprise. You know, you're not sure what you're going to make, and then suddenly it becomes very meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's often a sort of thing you don't keep at the end. It's not about making a beautiful pot.
Yeah.
It's about an expression of something deeper going on, and communication on another level, really.
Yeah. Very true. And even, you know, the word beautiful, ultimately, art is very subjective. Something that one person can find beautiful, the other person be completely untouched by it, and vice versa.
Yes.
So there were, but all of the pieces, because it was done in that context of trying to understand ourselves and tap deeper in the subconscious, all the pieces that was done, again, just if it was just a blob, they were beautiful in themselves, because then we had to explain what the process was to reach this. And we're like, I just realized I started doing this, and then it became this, and then I destroyed it, and I made something else, and it's like, oh, it's all this in maybe 10 minutes. It was really, really interesting. So,
yeah, mashallah.
So then to go back to this retreat, so you decided, so you said in the past you'd done different types of retreats, some spiritual retreats, but it was the first one, I think, that was so specifically about a moment in life or an event, isn't it? to call it the menopause?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it was again because I mean, I always like to do the retreat that I would like to go on, and I think, well, there must be. I mean, if I needed a retreat like this, then I'm sure there's plenty of other sisters who do as well. And I had been going through the menopause since age 40, which is very young, and it was very much of an isolated journey, and I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to help to cope with the symptoms and the hot flushes and everything, and I just thought it would be kind of quite an interesting idea. I feel sometimes one is just inspired and you feel like it's like this would be a good thing to do, and I always ask Allah for guidance and alhamdulillah, Allah has made it a success, and I think so many women have benefited, and alhamdulillah.
Oh yes.
And I learned a lot as well, so I found some experts, GP, and we had a herbalist as well as the Mizan therapist. I think all those elements just made it the perfect one for that particular topic. Alhamdulillah.
So was it well received everywhere when you started advertising? What was the response to this? Because it's very unusual. I told you at the time, you and Jumana Moon and yourself pioneered this new thing in Britain, having specifically a menopause retreat or even conference. It doesn't exist in the Muslim community.
Yeah.
So what was the response that you got?
Well, I mean, I think, many favorable responses. There was lots of inquiries and things. But I did have some feedback from some people saying, oh, I don't like the name of it. That sounds like it'll be too cringy and women's topics or something. And it's not the sort of thing I would want to tell someone I was going on. So I think there's still a lot of, we mustn't mention this word.
Resistance.
It's like periods or something, or we mustn't mention it. But I think as sisters, it's all just about being women and being factual and supporting ourselves, supporting each other, And so I don't know why they had that attitude, but I guess some people did.
Yeah, I think
that it has to be respected as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and but maybe the fact that now they were exposed to it is like, actually, it's not that bad, because the more there's this process of the more you're exposed to something you're not familiar with. The more familiar it becomes, and the less weird it becomes. And this is what we need to put that word out. It's not a swear word. It's not an illness, as Angela said in the introduction. It's just a transitional phase in our lives. Pretty much like when we're girls and we become women with a period and changing body. So it's the same at the other end of that cycle.
Well, exactly. And I think people need to know that there is going to be times, say at work, when we just want to be not forget anything or be kind of carry on as we were before, but we can now understand it in light of the menopause and even say to someone, you know what, I'm actually going through the menopause, so I might be forgetting something, or I'm sorry if I'm not always completely even-tempered or something, I don't know. So I mean, it's a way to sort of explain as well, and to and to know if the more it's accepted in society, we don't have to feel bad, and also the families as well.
Yes, it removes some misunderstandings, arguments that are really not needed. You don't need extra, but also it removes the fear when you know what potentially could be going on with you. You don't fear. You don't fear what's happening, because it was very apparent, and we'll hear it in some of the other contributions today, how much we feel our body changing, weird things happening, and we try and find a name for it. Oh, I'm having a heart attack. I'm having, seriously?
My blood pressure.
Yes. And you go and do a battery of tests that are completely inconclusive, because there's nothing wrong with you. So... it was really, I can't thank you enough, all of us, we can't thank you enough for doing this, organising this.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I'm so glad and so honoured to meet you as well, and thank you so much as well for everything.
Well, this is why we wanted to showcase you today, definitely, in our introduction. You're the impetus to for us to do this show again. And also, a lot of people around me have asked me, women have asked me, whether you were going to do another one, because they found out a bit too late and it was impossible to arrange. But quite a few of my local friends are interested in joining a future one. So any plans to do another menopause retreat?
Well, inshallah, we do hope to do one at the same time, the same place next year.
So that would be Buckinghamshire, St Catherine's, Parmore in October. All right.
Yes, at the end of October, inshallah.
Great.
So I mean, if you go onto the website, you could sign up to the mailing list, and then everyone would get the first. You know, as soon as we announce it, then you'll be able to sign up.
And what's your website?
It's halimamuslima.org.
Okay.
Halima, Halima, Muslima, Muslima. There's no H. Is that right? No
Correct.
H.
Yes, that's right.
So Halima.
We'll make sure to put the link below the video, inshallah, on YouTube. But
yes, we will put all links, but there's no H at the end of Halima and no H at the end of Muslima. Simply spelled.
Lovely.
Oh, that's really lovely to talk to you today, Yasmin. And inshallah, we hope in the future we'll have you back on the show to talk about your art therapy and all its benefits and more in detail.
Yes, inshallah. That would be great. And thank you very much again.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Yasmin, and may Allah bless you and give you opportunities for more great work like you did, inshallah, with Jumana.
Ameen, inshallah. Ameen, and you too.
Ameen, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
And that's it. She's gone. That was lovely. Lovely catch-up chat with Yasmin and Yasmin. I keep on saying Yasmin Watson from Halima Muslima. It's very inspiring, the work that they do.
Sounded like a very interesting fun if it involves art.
And exactly, as I said, this that's I think the one thing that surprised us the most. How many barriers we put ourselves and judge what we produce, whatever it is. Especially when it's something artistic where we think, oh, it has to have rules, you have to do it like this, because we didn't just do clay expression through clay. There was also drawing and poetry.
Oh, wow.
And at the very end of this show, we will close on one of the sisters who very kindly agreed to share her poem. And there was even one sister who said, sorry, I didn't write anything, or sorry, I did not want to, I don't want to contribute, I don't want to share it. And it was fine, because just even through that process of her, you know, of she thinking, maybe, you know, I'm thinking these things, but nothing comes. So maybe I think thoughts were coming, but nothing that she felt was to share. Maybe because of shyness, also because of judging herself a bit harshly on
and sometimes
what
if
it would
this is
be.
your first time
Exactly.
doing such a thing, you're not comfortable yet,
Yeah,
so you
and it
have
was
to
fine.
be exposed a few more
Exactly.
times.
Everybody was welcome and accepted in whatever they had to share, or even if they wanted to keep it private. There was no obligation to anything. The only thing that we were obliged to do is to not judge ourselves.
Which is impossible.
And not to say, oh, we had a good laugh. Jumana was, Yasmin and Jumana separated the group into two, so we work about 6, 7, 8 in each group. And then, so I was working mainly with Jumana. You can find her on Facebook and everything. She's also poetry and artist and stuff. She came in, we laughed because in the end it was like, oh yeah, you thought you thought you couldn't do any sculpture, yeah, right. Oh, you thought you couldn't write anything, yeah, right. It became a bit of a joke because, and each time she was saying, so now I would like you to do this. It's like, oh, we can't. But no, you can, because no one is there to say, give you a grade or try and sell your piece of art. That's not art therapy. This is not what it's about. It's a form of expression of what's within you. So it was very, very exciting to do. So now we're going to play another contribution one contribution actually in the first of our recorded contributions
MashaAllah.
by another sister called
Sofia.
No, we're going to play, sorry, Sidra first.
The
Yeah.
Sidra.
Yeah, we've got quite a few. So we're going to play Sidra first.
How long is it?
It's about 6 minutes. So just sit back with a cup of tea and listen to Sidra sharing her experience with her perimenopause.
I'm 51 years of age and I'm in the post-menopause period of my menopause journey. I stopped menstruating completely about 4 years ago. Although I'm no longer menstruating, I'm still experiencing a range of menopause-related symptoms. It's been a pretty turbulent period in my life for which I had no preparation whatsoever. My mother was in her 50s when she experienced changes in menstruation. As far as I understood, this was the only change that was part of the process of becoming an older woman. I was not at all expecting to experience this aspect or any other changes until a similar time in my life. I was looking forward to my 40s being a time of good health and well-being. I started to experience various symptoms at a time in my life when I was hoping to relocate to another country, but was unable to as my father's health deteriorated after a couple of falls he had, which led him to develop dementia and needed a lot of care. Around this time, I also had to take on the responsibility of homeschooling our 3 children. All these responsibilities left no time for my own health and well-being at a time when I needed to detach from responsibilities to children and family a bit more. There was a strong sense of feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. There were the changes in menstruation where my periods were lasting 10 days instead of 7. Frequency of the periods was changing. I was having hot flushes. I was experiencing mind fog, struggling to construct sentences, remember the correct names for things, saying one thing when intending another. As my father had dementia during this period, a real concern for me that was that I was losing my faculties and heading along the same road, but much earlier, in my 40s instead of 70s. The back, leg and feet pains I'd been experiencing for a few years became much worse and significantly restricted how long I could be standing or walking, affecting my mobility. The high levels of pain and inflammation in my muscles affected my moods and my energy levels a lot. My eyesight got weaker and I started to wear glasses. My eyes tended to be extremely dry, sensitive, with a burning sensation. I developed a lot of skin sensitivities and frequently had rashes and allergies, especially to cat hair. My hay fever, rhinitis came back and made me more irritable. I had a lot of hair loss and facial hair growth. After the painful feet and legs, the emotional changes have been the most challenging. I felt intense feelings of anger and rage, as well as feeling very depressed, feeling a lot of pain in my heart. I wanted so badly to have some time for myself, moments of solitude and peace. The hot flushes that disturbed my sleep and prevented me from sleeping helped me to use the quiet of the night for some me time with Allah, asking for His support and help to work through the challenges. This helped me to fulfill some of the longing in me for inner peace and greater connectedness to my Creator. Through my reading and research, I understood that some of the issues I was having were not a problem with me, not being able to cope with life, but due to the hormonal changes taking place at this point in my journey. I understood that this was indeed a time in a woman's life when she does need to detach from caring responsibilities to others and does need to take care of some of her own needs. Everything I was experiencing was calling on me to address the deeper causes for the pain, sadness, depression I'd been feeling for much of my life. Not being able to make time to do so was causing everything to be even more out of balance and control. I was recently guided to work with a wonderful therapist with whom I've been able to go deeply into the roots of my childhood depression and release much of the childhood trauma I'd been carrying. This has been a significant support in helping me to make peace with the past and begin the journey of being more compassionate and loving towards myself and others. Up until very recently, the menopause journey has been quite a lonely one, as most of the women around me have tended to be much younger and have not been experiencing similar changes to me, which often left me feeling that there's something wrong with me. Until I recently met with many beautiful sisters going through a similar journey to mine on a recent retreat for women going through the menopause. I realized after this that all of our experiences during these years could have been so much better with the support of the sisterhood we experienced, something which existed in some traditional cultures around the world. I hope and pray that this is something which can be revived in the coming years.
Well.
Wow.
Sidra.
A very nice account, very poignant, very emotional to me. And imagining to be in her place, because if you feel like you're going crazy, and it's something that I've also experienced, like, oh my goodness. It's pretty scary because you don't have anyone to ask.
There was another sister there who said she realized at the retreat that all of the things she thought she was, all of these years, last few years, when she was on the phone crying to her GP, I'm going crazy, the center for therapy, counseling and stuff, and she was crying, and she realized then, like at the retreat, that what was happening at the time was just basically the perimenopause.
And
one
she
of the
didn't
many.
know it. So if you don't know it, your mindset is right away, oh my God, something is happening to me severely.
So Angela, if we go through some of they're still called symptoms. It's a bit hard to avoid using that term. They're like, but I prefer to use like manifestations of the perimenopause. Just to clarify, but again, if you want to get more information about hormones, go back to our previous show on hormones and the menopause. But just to go briefly, the menopause is the day you've not had a period for 12 months. Not 11, not 10, 12 months.
And
that's the menopause. It's a day.
All the symptoms are caused by the imbalance of the hormones. Your estrogen lowers, your progesterone lowers even more. Now, normally progesterone balances estrogen, but when the menopause begins, the progesterone really lowers much really low, and so does the estrogen, but not as much, and that brings it out of balance. And then there's the other hormone, I'm forgetting the name of it.
Progesterone.
No, progesterone,
estrogen,
and one more.
Testosterone.
They are balanced. And
we'll put it down to the perimenopause. Brain fog. We're laughing, but it's a real thing.
Well, we have to laugh. It's also a mindset. You can have the same thing, but if you think it's killing you, or it's just something that will pass, it's how you think about it that makes you get through it.
So now that we've kind of clarified this, perimenopause is basically that period around the menopause, the day of menopause, where you feel all of these changes in you. And because you may not notice any changes in your period yet, you think you're getting a serious illness, serious disease, condition. Something's definitely wrong with you, but you're not aware. And the problem is, and alhamdulillah, my GP now has confirmed to me that they're not really looking at hormones anymore when a woman is past the age of 45, 47, because they vary so much, and they're not necessarily already showing that there's a reduction, a marked reduction or long-term reduction in their production, so they won't be picked up by a blood test. But now they go by symptoms. So if a woman comes to them and they're about 45, 46, 47, and they say, I've got a problem, I've got this, I've got that, blah, blah, blah. I say, oh, let's consider potentially that you are entering the perimenopause. How can we help you with that? Okay, so we'll talk on the second hour, we'll talk a lot more about the different helps you can get, but let's talk about this manifestations, symptoms.
So some of the things you might be feeling and worrying about is incontinence. It really links back to stress, okay? And you get the urgency when you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's hormonal.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not because you're drinking too much water or something's wrong. It's hormonal.
And it happens really unexpectedly. It happened to me. I was just walking with a friend, and I did not even particularly need to go to the bathroom, and it just happened there and then. And walking, it was really distressing.
It is,
because you think that's it. I'm gonna be like wearing pads all the time, and actually, it comes and goes. Okay, a lot of these symptoms come and go.
So we have joint pain or general aches and pains.
Yes, definitely. Inflamed, you can feel like in your feet, in your toes. So interestingly, I discovered, I learned in that retreat, the doctor explained that one of the receptors, one of the main receptors of estrogens is in the base of your thumb, inside, where it's quite soft. And this is where I used to always have a lot of pain. And I understand. So other things, you can have also general dryness in your private areas, in your mouth, in your nose, your eyes.
Get cyclical chest pain, digestive changes between diarrhea and constipation. All these symptoms can be very uncomfortable to even talk about. But we must mention them. I'm sorry if anyone is feeling uncomfortable listening to this. We get bloating. You can all of a sudden get new allergies.
Yeah, like our earlier contributor mentioned.
To cat hair, brittle nails, drier skin, hair loss.
Oh, hair loss.
Oh, it's one of the saddest things for women, because your hair is your crown.
Okay, I thought hair loss, you always lose a bit of hair throughout your day, your life, and that's normal, okay? I thought it would be that, like slowly, gradually, it's just notice it gets thin. No, it's not how it works. You rinse your hair after washing it, and you have lumps of hair in your hand, and it's scary. You think, I'm going to go bald. Not necessarily, but yes, your hair does thin.
You get palpitations.
Yeah.
Maybe they're so severe. Sometimes you think you're having a heart attack or blood pressure.
Yeah, because palpitations, I'd like to specify. Palpitations, we think about, generally described as fluttering heartbeat. So I thought, it would be like, it skips a beat, or it maybe goes a little bit faster. Mine were very different. My heart was pumping like, obviously, like its life depended on it.
I actually thought my blood pressure was high. My ears were like ringing, and I was thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna get a blood pressure. I don't want to be on meds for life.
So really, it's anything that's strange. Like I couldn't even sleep on my left side. I felt like my whole chest was compressing my heart, and it would stop. It was pumping so hard, and specifically before I would come, my period would start the week before. And that's another thing as well. So weight gain
around the tummy. If you don't already have weight gain, and then that adds to it. Bloating.
Yeah, bloating, we
mentioned that. And then headaches, migraines before period or at any time.
Yeah, that's again, I started having that. But also, to talk specifically about period, there's a stage where you will notice your cycle will change.
Yeah.
Whether you're irregular or regular, you will notice it's not the usual. It's not your usual.
Usual for you.
Yeah, exactly. So say you were someone who was fairly regular, you might get very short cycles, like 20 days. So you've got to think that if you have a cycle of 20 days, that's like virtually an extra, or how I calculated, I can't remember, it was an extra or two, it was an extra period a year, which means that when you bleed so much, you can end up being anemic, and which has happened to me. So for a while, I had very heavy bleeding, very frequent. I became anemic. You also can have blood clots, so clotting coming out. Wow. So, and it's very scary.
It is.
But actually, it's all part of the process. But you can also have the opposite, and you can have heavier bleeding. All of a sudden, it just goes all over the place and nothing seems to contain it. So just be prepared to have extra things. We're going to be very, very clear in this show, okay? This is a wellness show. We're not going to make apologies. We have to talk about things as they are in a polite manner, but we need to say these things, because also if there's any man listening to here, young men, young women, older women, we need support in that time. We need understanding. We don't need more shaming. We don't need more pushing that under the carpet, doesn't exist. No, we need support and help. So you can also get lighter bleeding. So it just starts thinning, and it might be that after 2-3 years of that heavier, shorter cycling, and then you get longer cycles. And now maybe I have a period like twice a year for the last 2 years. So obviously my anemia is gone, alhamdulillah. You know, so, and then eventually it just stops, doesn't happen anymore. Some other women, it's just kind of overnight, from being very irregular to nothing. It really depends.
Yeah, it was very, it phased like that for me. It was like slowly.
And then stopped, yeah. So this is kind of a list of the physical symptoms. Obviously, you can also have emotional upheaval, anxiety, feeling of doom and gloom, as if the whole world was just going to collapse on your shoulders. The slightest task that you normally were able, at work for instance, you notice it in your daily life where tasks or responsibilities were perfectly fine for you before, become absolutely not impossible, but like so heavy, so difficult.
Do you think that in this part of the world, the Western world, the symptoms are the transition is more pronounced for women, and it has to do with our I'm always going to bring it back to the diet, to what we eat, and our lifestyle, lack of physicality in our everyday life. We have a lot of indoors, we have a lot of sitting downs, our jobs are sit mostly, we eat a lot of unhealthy fats that lead, because our hormones and our cells need healthy fats, and when you don't eat healthy fats, your cells and your hormones don't manifest health in a healthy way.
Yeah, we'll go into more details on the second hour about all of these.
So that time, if you didn't do anything for yourself before, I think when you're reaching those problems, this is a definite time to start thinking, okay, I need to get myself into in a healthier state. And you can, yes, it is hard, but you can change your lifestyle. Yeah, you have to pay attention.
Definitely. We have quite a few advice and tips we'll give you, but for now I'd like to play another contribution by a sister who preferred to stay anonymous, and this is just a couple of minutes, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. So my experience of the perimenopausal phase, largely I was in denial. It was probably around age 45 where the periods started to become less frequent. And I just thought, oh, well, I'm stressed, or, you know, it's just one of those things. Just ignored it. Quite welcome, actually, not to have to deal with the periods. But then started to feel just very warm and hotter than everybody else. Would want the windows open, would want the fan on at night. Didn't need a cardigan when I went out anymore. So... yeah, just things were just not quite right. The brain fog also started to get worse. I thought I was always a little bit forgetful, but, you know, it was getting quite difficult, actually. Would go into rooms and forget why I'd gone there, would forget little tasks, would start to have to write lists down in order not to forget. And obviously there's... you know, a sort of background of anxiety because when you're working, you're sort of a bit more worried about, you know, not forgetting certain important tasks to do, and just generally, you know, feeling less confident at work. And then there's the muscle aches and pains and just feeling very tired, get tired really quickly. And it was probably when I went to the retreat that I realised that a lot of the symptoms were most likely due to the dwindling estrogen levels. And so I think there was a, you know, I had to really look inside and myself and accept that that was what was happening. And alhamdulillah, try to embrace, you know, the changes. And I think what we learnt was really to, you know, start to really accept and look after ourselves and our bodies, look after our mental health and our physical health, look at what we are eating, and just being more kinder to ourselves, pacing ourselves, so that we don't overdo it and we can make that transition much more smoother and positive and embrace our wise selves. And that's it. Thank you.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Nice.
Yes, it was good to hear from another sister about this.
And the positive ending. Yes,
Yeah.
This is what we need to just not feel too overwhelmed. It's to see this in positive terms again, that we're not ill. I don't think we'll say this enough. We're not ill, despite sometimes
We're feeling ill. We might be feeling like
yes,
we're ill.
Exactly.
And
But it's not an illness.
I think it's also like a wake-up call at that point, where this is when you have to, okay, this is it. I need to get my health back on track. And we live at a time when you can do that, right? Like, I'm thinking at my grandmother's time, they would not have thought, oh, I'm going to start exercising or I'm going to change the way I eat. Well, it wasn't done. You just went with life the way it was. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, we can make changes, and it's not unusual to see older women exercising and taking care of themselves, right? We don't have those taboos anymore. At least not here in the Western world where Muslims live here. But it's not even just Muslims. There's all kinds of communities that have the same issues. We tend to be very negative sometimes about ourselves. Alhamdulillah. So.
Yes, this is really important that we stop being our own worst enemy and just try to change things around ourselves, in ourselves, and then in our community, depending on our role, depending on our position, depending on our personality. But there's always a little change we can make, even if it's just in ourselves and how we see things. But the main thing, and that's also something we mentioned in our previous show on hormones, we need to talk to our girls and boys.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be aware, because one day it'll be either them or their partner, like them if they're a girl, or their partner, their wife.
They
or
definitely.
daughter.
And so education is part of this. I mean, but if you don't know what's happening to yourself, that means nobody ever taught you that. Like it was kept quiet. It was kept like it wasn't talked about.
No. And talking to some of my friends about their mother's generation, they say, well, they would just not mention anything. They would just bottle it up.
Oh, I didn't have anyone talking
maybe they
to
would,
me about menarche or menopause.
Yeah, they would potentially back home, you know, when they had that strong female network, they would then potentially do this talking, you know, around the cooking pot, around when they were doing the different chores in the villages all together, around together. And women used to spend a lot of time together, different ages, different families, all sharing things. But nowadays, and this is what a lot of, because our culture has been like this for a long time, like you leave individual houses away, you know, parents, you leave home very young, etc. But many of my friends from different backgrounds, this is much more recent, and they've noticed that the parents have changed compared to maybe the grandparents' generation, or things are not done the same. But you know, you still need that connection. I think again, this is what we found in that retreat, is that connection with our own sisters, people who go through the same thing as us, and how that can provide us some support. So we thought that the second hour, after we've described the symptom, we still listen to contributions from some sisters for their experience. But we thought we should have a look a little bit at the kind of things that can help. Remember, you're not ill. This is the thing that we keep on talking about.
You need to try and have the maximum health that you can achieve, right? And it's done through two things: what you eat, that could like support your hormones and therefore your health, and exercise, right? So what are we gonna do? Foods that we could keep in our diet. We're not going to talk about removing things, though. I will highly recommend two things if you didn't do it before, remove them now. Vegetable oils, seed oils, and sugar. Okay, now I'm not going to take away your little desserts and stuff, but seriously, and constant snacking, right? Because it doesn't give your body a break. So some of the foods that we can, that seem to help, okay, is soybeans. And I would have them, if I was going to have them as tofu and tempeh, as these two products are fermented, and they have developed vitamins in them. Okay, there's like linseed, ground flax seeds. They really do help or optimize gut flora, so in turn it helps rebalance the endocrine system, which is the system that produces the hormones. Okay, so we also will help, it will help to optimize the bowel function, so you're not gonna have diarrhea or constipation. You can add these things to your breakfast, cereals. Okay, so other things that you could keep in your diet is sesame seeds, berries, oats, barley. Barley is food of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so it cannot be but good.
Yeah.
Then there's the rice bran and the wheat germ. They're all like fibers from the said seeds. You can have lentils and beans and yams. You can make chili with all of this, you know, and you can make salads with all of this. Mung beans and chickpeas. All of these, of course, it's suggested that they're sprouted because it removes any what would you call them, Safiya? Any elements from the plants that are harmful to us by soaking them, and then you can get all other benefits. You can make hummus, and you can have some nice fruit that will really support your system, which is apples and pomegranates. They're also winter fruit. Cauliflower and carrot, fennel, and aniseed. So all these that I mentioned, and I'm sure there's more that we haven't, support your hormones. I'm gonna also add healthy fats like coconut oil and ghee and butter. What am I missing? Something. I'm sure I'm missing something. Avocado oil. All these are healthy fats. Olive oil. Olive oil, by the way, don't cook with it. Use high quality olive oil on top of your food. The other stuff you can use for cooking. And those are the side of the food that helps support your hormones.
And interestingly, this is over and over and over again the same food that we keep on saying, to just have a healthy life. So before we continue with other tips to help you, we're going to listen to Lauren Booth, who would like to contribute her thoughts on the menopausal transition.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear sisters. I wanted to share some of my own thoughts on this amazing topic that you've chosen, so important. I have noticed in my lifetime a growing fear, and probably you've all noticed this as well, that was being put onto natural conditions so that we medicate ourselves and flee from them, instead of going through them and even enjoying the process. So for example, adolescence, now it's not just a sticky, unpleasant, sweaty time of growth. I got all gangly and grew 6 centimeters over one summer and bumped into things. No, now it's a drama, it's a horror visited upon you by the vampire of nature. It's awful way of looking at things. Pregnancy, the same. I loved my pregnancy, but it's not easy. But what you get the other side is always a gift. And I feel the same with menopause. And I just want, as a counterbalance to some very real fears and some promoted fears about what is a natural part of a woman's life, I just wanted to add a counterpart and say that we are moving from one stage and state in our emotion and physical lives into the next stage. Now, unlike adolescence, where normally at the other side we get more beautiful and we grow into our adulthood, it can be a little bit frightening, like, okay, so the other side of menopause, we're not going to be as attractive as we once were. We're just not going to be baby making machines. We're not going to be in that state. And that is a different area of society we enter. It's true. And how amazing is that? One of the things I noticed as a convert was when I came into the Muslim community, older women, we have auntie status. I've been looking forward to it, to be quite honest, for the last 10 years. I don't like being an in-betweeny. Do I call her sister or auntie? Call me auntie. I'm 55 years old. Been through a lot, as anybody who lives to this age has been through. And I love the respect and the wisdom that is given to us by Allah Ta'ala and our community in this stage of life. So, there's a lot to look forward to, actually. You don't have to lift your chairs anymore. There's always somebody there to rush and do things for you. And if you're saying no to that, well, you're missing out on a lot of bonuses. That's what I have to add. As for my experience of menopause, well, I said to my daughter the other day, who's 22, I said, oh, it was easy for me, menopause. She said, Mum, you were insane for 2 years. You're either crying or shouting. So what I read from that, my dear sisters, is that you actually forget it. So much like pregnancy, you get to the other side and you're like, phew, Allah Ta'ala allows us to invent a better past. So you will get through it. And the other thing is that I didn't hate it as much as I thought. Yes, you get sweaty within the normal realms of what's expected. But remember, Allah has made us perfect and his systems are perfection themselves. This is a necessary time period for us. So if you can smile, one of the things I did, by the grace of Allah, I just determined I am not going to be a grumpy older woman. I'm really working hard on being one of the smiley elders, inshallah. So we can all commit to that. Because the other side is this push towards, I need to stay young. Sorry, this is a bit long, what I'm leaving here. I'm taking up a lot of your show. Forgive me for that. But I just wanted to share that my mum, she died a couple of years ago, and she was one of the first women to go on HRT in the 1980s. And she stayed on it for 40 years, threatening suicide with her doctor if he took her off it. So they kept her on it for 40 years. She was like literally a walking lab. And yeah, do you know what? She kept quite a young face towards the end. She didn't have a granny face. She looked older, but she didn't have a granny face. She was very pleased with that. But she was riddled with cancer. I'm not saying that's due to HRT. She smoked as well. There were many other factors. But if we're putting something inside us that isn't natural, we do have to pay for it somewhere and somehow along the line. And I'm sure HRT is safe. Check with your doctor and all of those things. What I'm saying is try to do this naturally. Trust in Allah. Hasbunallah when you're mal-wakil. Cry as much as you like. Put your feet up. Explain to everybody what you're going through. And the other side, it's a really nice view from here. Hope that helps. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah.
Well said, Lauren.
Yeah.
I hope you're listening to us now. Yeah, I feel the
You
same
go,
way.
girl.
That I've had my misgivings about. I spent all these years trying to be as healthy as possible and not to take any meds that you need to constantly fill. And this is something that I've been really tempted. But I've trained myself for so long that it wasn't an easy push. I would have had to take a lot to get me to take any meds. Now, some people might need it depending on how severe their symptoms are. So this is, especially here in the Western world, where we are really like
obsessed with this is to
not only, but because of already we have health issues because of the way we eat and the way we live. Our symptoms might be more severe than in other parts of the world where it just glides into the next phase more naturally than we have it here.
So thank you very much, Lauren, for your words.
So much.
You didn't take too much of our time. It was all very, very important and useful and totally spot on, mashallah, wise woman. And interestingly, in the retreat, the end of the retreat was one of the last thing we did as a group therapy. Our therapy was to write to our own wise woman, the one that was basically coming out of ourselves. So we'll have that to finish off, to conclude. So it's exactly this. I feel so because Lauren mentioned HRT, and we obviously, it's part of what we're going to mention in this part of the show about treatment and help, and I recently was tempted to go on HRT, and so I went to see my GP about it, and the first thing she said was, right, okay, so I give you will get estrogen and progesterone. Because I give you estrogen and you still have a womb, you will have to have progesterone as well, because otherwise you may develop, you have more risk of developing uterus cancer. Oh, right, okay. But because I give you estrogen, if I give you estrogen via the skin, so that's okay, very little risk, but you can develop a reaction to it, skin reaction. And if I give you by mouth, we just have to be a bit careful and monitor you, because you might have a stroke or a blood clot. Oh, right, okay, so it's not just taking a magical pill, is it? And then I looked back, I thought, hold on a minute, I never really took hormonal pill. I had my children totally naturally, not even gas and air, because again I wanted to be in control of my faculties, not to be half drunk. I got a nice high five from Angela here. It wasn't easy, but with determination and will, it was feasible. And I'm not like, I really have a low pain threshold. I'm a bit of a wuss, you know. So, but I prepared myself.
You can't say that after you had children without.
True. Now I
pain
have to give.
medication.
Yeah, let's give credit where credit's due. We do lower, belittle ourselves all the time, don't we? So yeah, I'm proud of myself, mashallah, alhamdulillah. But again, there are times where medically it is justified to use a medical a treatment.
Yes, it is.
And of course, if
it's good that they're there.
you've got to discuss that with your doctor as well. So one of the things with HRT now is that, as they say, you've got this gel for estrogen. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's much more finely dosed. If you take it within the 10 years of your menopause day, then you actually have low risk than the average population of having breast cancer and strokes. And also it can help with osteoporosis. But ultimately, the risks are still there. And do you really need them now that I feel like I'm over, like I've climbed a mountain. I didn't really know I was climbing that mountain.
You also change your mindset, Safiya.
I did change my mindset, but also it was a combination of things. I was able to change maybe my mindset because I'd reached the top a little bit. I felt like I had, like as I said, for 2 years now, I've been virtually without period. So physically there are a lot less upheaval happening, so it kind of all helped. So this is why we keep on telling you, you're not going to be in that state forever. It will be a few years, on average 7 years, okay, between 7 and 10 years of the perimenopause, which is the period before the day of menopause and the period after. So it is feasible to survive it. Well, we've millions of women over millions of years have survived it. It's only in the last few years, last few decades, that people have felt, because the medical establishment have decided to describe it as an illness. To be fair, it has to be
the
said.
pharmaceutical.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it has to, it is in medical documentation to educate medical doctors that it should be seen as a condition, as an illness in a sense. So obviously they will see it from a point of view of like, I need to treat it. But if you look at it the other way, we have other ways as well to help ourselves. So you were saying there's food that can help. There's obviously healthier lifestyles. The first thing, even in all of these books, we'll put some resources on our YouTube video.
I didn't mention oily fish.
Yes.
The healthy fats.
Yeah.
So of all, and then there's unsalted nuts, and the top ones are the Brazil nuts. Okay, and magnesium.
The magnesium. Always go back to magnesium. Oh, you lasted a bit longer than last week before you mentioned magnesium.
May I point out that not all magnesium is created equal. I'm just gonna say magnesium biglycinate is the best one. It has a high rate of absorption, like 90+%, whereas a lot of vitamins, who say they have magnesium, they have something, if you look carefully at the back, it's called magnesium oxide. If there's magnesium oxide, that's the cheapest of all magnesiums, and it's like less than 2-3% absorption rate. Okay, guys? So you can have, if you have it, keep it if you have constipation. Next, oily fish, tuna, salmon. They have the omega-3 fatty
Mackerel,
acids, mackerel. It helps with your brain function, your mental agility, all kinds of things. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps with chronic diseases. It helps your heart, cancer, Alzheimer's, you name it. Okay, and you already heard me say something about the flax seeds before, and the sunflower seeds. You can put them on in a salad. If you can soak them, that'd be very good. Vegetables, broccolis, all the vegetables that are cruciferous, like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, very good to help with balancing estrogen. So go ahead and steam them and have them with some nice olive oil. Green tea is a very good antioxidant. Right, so what else? Don't stop having caffeine. I'm going to tell you. We give up a lot of stuff, but not caffeine.
Yeah, just with it.
Okay? What else? Sophia,
Moderation.
Do you think I forgot anything?
I think we kind of covered tofu as well. Is good.
Tofu and tempeh, they're made from soya and they're fermented, and they're made. You can use them instead of meat, but you know, if you know what you're doing, go ahead and try them.
So there's also herbs you can use. So for instance, to get more energy, I'm just going to mention a few things, because if you go on the internet you can find all sorts of things. So just to give you ideas, to get more energy, you can have dandelion tea, for instance. Or dandelion, you can even pluck it out of your own garden and use dandelion roots.
As long as it hasn't been sprayed to the inch of his life.
Exactly. If it's in your garden, it's generally fairly good. To support your liver, again, dandelion, artichoke leaf, milk thistle seed.
Milk thistle.
Yeah, thank you.
You can make it into tea, or you can also get the oil form and have it.
Exactly. Very common. Rosemary and turmeric help. For emotional balance, you can use vervain, which is a very nice calming herb, especially found in North Africa, but you find it here as well. Chamomile, lemon balm, sage, lavender, St. John's wort. For memory, ginkgo, rosemary. For endocrine, so adrenal support, to help for your stress levels. Ashwagandha is really good. Licorice, black cohosh. You know, these are just...
I mean, licorice.
Licorice.
Sorry, is that how they say it here, licorice?
No, it's me.
Oh,
With
okay.
my French accent trying to sound English.
Licorice.
Licorice. So, thanks for the help, Angela, there.
Sorry.
It sounded something really weird and exotic. No, it's just simple licorice. So there's also a website you can go to called menopausematters.co.uk, and it's set up by a doctor. She has a health questionnaire there. You can, if you're not entirely sure you've entered the menopause, you can do a little test there to explore all this. We're going to play another interview, that a contribution that I did with one of the sisters who was at the retreat. It's 15 minutes long, so we'll have we'll listen to that, and then we'll sort of continue.
We'll wrap it up afterwards.
Wrap it up. So just enjoy that. It's a lovely, lovely contribution by Sofia Odugleh, who is a midwife in Cardiff. Assalamu alaikum. So I'm just talking to Safiya Odugleh, who was one of the sisters who attended the retreat that I went to about the menopause that was taking place in Buckinghamshire. And she very, very kindly accepted to speak to me and record this so we can share, both of us and all of us, our experience a little bit, not specifically just about the retreat, but just our general experience with the perimenopause and all of the challenges that brings. So, Safiya, off you go. Just tell me a bit more about yourself. What how has it been with the last few years, and why did you feel you had to go to that retreat?
Subhanallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li qawli. Alhamdulillah. The reason why I went on the retreat was because I had so many symptoms, and I felt, I'd gone to I'd gone to a work menopause workshop, and they did it online. And subhanallah, even like the things they were, they went from the two extremes. Where there's one woman who had her menopause started really early in life. She was about 17, 18, and the doctors kept fobbing her off, and in the end they did find out hers was quite a severe one. It's very unusual. And then the other extreme, there were a woman who was working in a managerial role. Her menopause was so bad that she ended up leaving her job.
Wow.
So subhanAllah, so there was that thing of, I don't think I even recognized it because we'd never talked about it before. I didn't know anything about the menopause myself. And actually now looking back, I must have been going through the change sort of I'm like in my 50s now, in my late 40s. when I looked at the symptoms, the anxiety, which I never used to have before, the feeling of being overwhelmed, irregular periods. I remember my mum used to say, "Oh my God, my skin is itching," like certain clothes you can't wear. All these symptoms, subhanAllah, they've changed over the years and they've come on. And sometimes they can come on gradually and sometimes they can come on, slowly. And sometimes you think, oh my God, am I going mad? Is it me? Is it all in my head? Is there something else wrong with me? Urinary incontinence, that's another symptom. I think, oh my God, this can't be good. And then there'd be bouts of it and it'd be sometimes worse than others. And so subhanAllah, so some of these things, I was like, I was going through it on my own. I mean, I've discussed it with other sisters and whatever. We'd had discussions about the menopause, but not anything like done any work around it. And I thought the menopausal retreat was fantastic because I just needed to go somewhere where there was in a safe environment. And actually the therapies that they used was fantastic. I mean, the play therapy, I was like very skeptical. I thought, really? I'm a 51-year-old woman, I'm going to be playing? But actually,
playing with clay, we did clay.
SubhanAllah, through play, that childlike state, it just give it another dimension. And actually, and the thing when we went out into the forest and we wrote, I wrote poetry. I hadn't done that for a long time. That creativity, that thing of actually we're going through the wise woman phase, and all that, the beautiful transition that actually. It's quite difficult. It's painful. It's all the things that it incorporates, but it's another transition in life. But not if you don't prepare for it, then it can be really difficult. And actually, I think if I'd known what I knew, if I know now what I knew then, it would have been an easier transition because it's for us to actually know what's coming, and you can prepare a little bit better as well. Whereas if you're not prepared. Everything just feels, it's just this horrible cycle. And I'm like, oh, I'm losing my marbles. I think I've got Alzheimer's. I literally thought, oh my God, I've got Alzheimer's. I can't remember names. I can't remember memory loss. I can't, there were so many things. I was like, I can't. And actually,
I feel, same. I had similar experience, and I felt like I was going a little bit like, as you say, like some form of senility, dementia. But I'm thinking, no, I'm too young for that, but I felt like maybe it's the beginning. This is how it starts. And eventually when you're 70, it's full blown.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking, I'm so easily distracted. And what's wrong with me? You keep on thinking, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like you try to put a label on it, but it's just impossible to find exactly what label to put on. But you work in healthcare. And is it not really mentioned? You're a midwife, I can mention that.
No,
it's
that's
not mentioned in your circles.
No, I mean, it's something that we've got a 80% workforce of females. I mean, we've just had a massive cohort of midwives who've retired because they've reached, they've all retired. And now we've got a younger population of midwives. But even there's some of us, obviously, there's still a few of us that are at that age, but not now it's becoming more aware. People are becoming more aware. And now they're beginning to do more stuff around it, like workshops and menopause cafes and stuff. Now we're starting to talk about it, which is something we haven't talked about for a long time. Women's health, I don't think we are so a little bit behind, I think, with women's health. We're not as prevalent in preventative measures, like knowing, and that's why it's important for us to be able to prepare our next generation, like our girls, and tell them, this is, you're going to go through stages of life.
And I like some of the presentations that explain to us that in different cultures they'll have a different approach. They, like in Asia, in East Asia, Japan, they don't even have a word for the menopause. For them, it's just the word transition. Or maturity, or something much, much, much more positive than the menopause means stopping the period. And much, much more than, this is just focusing on this particular aspect. Actually, there's so much more to it.
And I think also because we live in a society, I mean, we're here, I mean, I don't have, my mother's not here, so if your parents are not here, you know, we don't have that community link anymore either. Before, you know, you'd be surrounded by women. I mean, my mother's generation, they had, you know, they worked together. They somebody's wedding, they'd be there together. You know, they'd do stuff together. The women were at home. You know, a lot of us are working now. You know, we're from a bit more nuclear, so we don't have that extended community. And actually here, it's really difficult, I think, here, because we don't have that. Because a lot of with breastfeeding, you know, they've never seen it before. Whereas before, in the past, you did, because you had, you know, surrounded by women, and actually we had time for each other, and we had. But now everybody's on this rat race that, you know, you're working, then you come home, you're cooking, you clean, you've got the rest of your family, you're looking after your family and stuff. And it's very, unless you've got extended.
It's nuclear. Family. It's a nuclear family, as you said.
Yeah,
it's just, you know, ideally parents and children in one house.
Yeah.
Away from the older generation, the aunties and the wider network.
Where the wise woman, where we would have that mixture of young and old coming together and then sharing that knowledge and, you know, having that time together. There's a lot of that that's missing, unfortunately.
And we got a lot from the sort of feedback from the Asian sisters saying that within their community, they don't even talk about this. They don't talk about their female issues. It's like, well, that's just the way it is, and it's just shyness and excessive shyness. Because in Islam, really, yes, we have to protect our aura and our modesty and everything, but among ourselves, there shouldn't be that shyness, because we learn from each other, and as you say, we have to educate our young, you know, our girls for the future, and our boys, so that once they're married, they know what to expect.
I think it's that thing of you know, we've forgotten, you know, there's shyness, don't get me wrong, there's people that are really shy, but actually Islam, like you say, you should seek knowledge for things that, you know, that do affect you. I mean, obviously you're not going to tell young children, but no,
exactly, you choose the right age, the right person,
choose the right age and the right, you know, these are things that we should be discussing amongst ourselves, and that's what, you know, subhanAllah, maybe that's something that we as a community need to do, make that a little bit more accessible for people. And actually, there's people are starting to talk about a lot of stuff now, menopause, mental health. You know, there's a lot more stuff out there available now, mashallah. There is people who are doing that, who are, even in my own, obviously the Somali community, I'm Somali, the Somali community, it's a little bit more, people are starting to talk about mental health. You know, before we were like, that it was a taboo. There's a lot of the subjects are taboo subjects, and I think they're taboo because we're here, and it's a different way of living here and working. Our older generation, as I said, my mum's older generation, they talked about stuff, but they did it in their own groups. You know, they were very together, the women, whereas my generation, we're all professionals, we're all in professional roles and stuff. So
a bit more scattered.
It's a bit more scattered. So like everybody's got busy schedules. We can't get together because we're so busy. Somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. You know, everybody's got and then you got your house, and you got your kids, and you got you got stuff that's going on, kind of thing. And it's like trying to find the time to fit everything in. It can be really, really. I think there could be a difference.
Yeah, so now that you and I, we went to this retreat and we've got more knowledge. We heard from a doctor who had an interesting view from both sides, the medical side and also maybe more alternative therapies. We had this naturopath who came, herbalist who came. We had the art therapy. We had just each other, talking to each other, sharing our experiences. You feel like now you're a bit more prepared. If you feel like you want to share it more. Have you done maybe more sharing since you came back with people around you?
I mean, I've had discussions with some of the younger girls and said, look, this is some of the things you're going to go through, and actually menopause is really important that you become aware of it. So I'm sharing stuff with my own groups, because I'm obviously involved with a lot of community groups, and I actually we've got a Somali women group. We also got the new convert sisters group, so I'm going to probably take some of that knowledge to them as well. And actually, because a lot of them are still they're younger, you know, they're in their late 20s, they're not coming up to that menopausal years, but we can give them little bits of information now, so they start to think about it when they do hit their sort of late 30s, because it can happen earlier. you know?
Yes. Yes, we had a couple of sisters
Yeah.
who had their early onset of menopause from like age 37 or something, which is still a bit unusual, but we had 2 out of 18 we were or something. So yes, it can happen, definitely. And it's good to be prepared with what I realized I need to do a bit more now is to focus on the positive as well, to see that wise woman aspect and project that more rather than just all these physical and mental symptoms. We call them symptoms. No, there's a more experiences. It's a transition. It's a new phase. It's like part of life, the cycle of life, etc. And it helps me to see things and to bear maybe some of these physical changes that are a bit unpleasant, a bit more, thinking, well, it's part of a broader process, which all in all is kind of a virtuous circle, isn't it? As you think in terms of positive things, and obviously then you're less affected.
Yes, I think definitely it's a mindset, isn't it? I think that thing of, you know, when you take, because we're all going to go through it, it's a transition, you know, it's like childbirth.
Absolutely.
I can take childbirth, for example. You know you're going to go through that, the pain of labour. Of course it's going to be painful. It's
and when you're 10 years old, you know you're going to have your period. I mean,
when you're going to go through that.
It exists.
Yeah.
But it's rare that you never have your period. And around that time, so at some point you will go through the phase when, you know, it'll stop. So
and
you might as well be prepared.
And also, the other thing I want to say is we should be kinder to ourselves as well and not be so hard. And I think that's the other thing, isn't it? That because there's certain things you can't do anymore. You start going, I can't. It's not that you can't. Again, it's accepting the, you know, you've hit a certain age, you're going through another milestone, and actually embrace like you say, embrace the positives. You know, you don't see the fools gladly anymore. You're like, not doing that anymore. No. No, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean, Sophia? I used to be like a yes woman, now I'm a no woman.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and as we said, develop that wise woman, but kind of also confident, mature. You know, just be there. Become sort of the people, the person that the younger generation look up to.
Yeah,
and that's the best. I think the best way to be. Mashallah, alhamdulillah, is very inspiring and very positive. So I'm really grateful that you were able to and willing to give us some time to share this with us, Sophia. So may you have many more opportunities in Cardiff and beyond to share that new experience. And we hope that everybody enjoyed listening to you. I'm sure they did. And inshallah, maybe we'll end up talking to you another time on the show, maybe about your work as a midwife. It would be lovely. So always new ideas to bring some knowledge to the sisters and brothers out there and wider community as well, inshallah. Thank you very much, Sophia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well. Sofia Odugleh.
MashaAllah, I loved it. It was so good to hear you guys talking about this in such an animated
She was a particularly lively
and
person.
she's a midwife, so she's dealing with women in different stages of their life.
Oh yes, definitely. And she sees quite a lot of things, obviously, as a midwife, some sad ones and some beautiful things. So may she be blessed for her contribution.
Ameen.
It was really lovely, and she finished off on this idea of the wise woman. And as I said earlier, we will play a little recording I did of her reading her own poem to her own wise woman. So this was like the aim of this retreat, was to go through this process of like exactly like this show, where, you know, what are the symptoms, what are the moaning and the whining, like this is all's happening, and this and then the second day, that's it, we had kind of let that out. And then we went through a transition of going through how, you know, what was good, what was bad, how we can build on that. And then the last day was, that's it, now let that wise woman come out of yourself and be confident and be positive. And the way it was transformed on people's faces, you could see women's faces just more relaxed, smilier, less worried, because we just all of us knew, okay, we're not alone, this is normal. And it should be celebrated. It's a new phase of our life. So just before we go on to her poem, I just want to finish off a little bit on a few other things that can help if you really feel overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming, definitely. We all agreed that it is an overwhelming phase. CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy, can help. We knew for a long time that it helped with mood and anxiety.
I thought you said CBD.
No, CBD. Oh, yes. Well, now it can be found anywhere. That can help with anxiety. I've not tried it myself. But you can find drinks now. Even I've just noticed that in one of the shops
That's
yesterday.
from your mindset to get over that idea. 1 minute it's illegal, now it's allowed.
No, but it's because it's the oil. It doesn't have any effect, other effect. But it's CBT. Cognitive behavior therapy. So yes, always helped for a long time with mood and anxiety. But what I've noticed recently as well is some techniques can help as well with hot flashes and sweat, which are physical manifestations. So it's a really interesting thing to look at. Acupuncture can help with hot flashes and sweat.
I want to try
excessive
that one
sweating.
time. Have you ever tried acupuncture?
Yes, I do
Does it
have.
hurt?
Not at all. You don't feel it.
So they put needles in you, but it doesn't hurt.
No, because they're so thin and in particular spot that.
I'd love to do that.
No, it's absolutely. It's not even you don't even feel the prickle. It's not like you prickling yourself with a needle when you try and sew something. Definitely not that at all. And then I'm a great advocate of using essential oils in various forms. So I have essential oils, always have different blends. I put them on my wrist, I put them behind my ears. These are the entry points on the sole of your feet, near your heart. And just inhaling, and there are tons and tons of studies, very serious studies on how these essential oils actually affect us on a chemical level just by inhaling them. You can diffuse them, cold diffusion, plug in a little device and it just diffuses it with cold vapor so it doesn't damage the chemical compounds of the essential oil. So some really easy ones and good ones to use. Obviously the first one that we can think of is lavender, very good against anxiety, but you also have clary sage, which is a really good one to help with your hormonal imbalances. I love essential oils, really. Such a great support. For me, ashwagandha has been a great help as well to not feel so overwhelmed. And
you have it in tea?
And for me, it was really... No, I have it in like a little ton of tablets in powder form. But for me, it was... I've never been a negative person. I'm always upbeat, always positive, always, looking for, like I said, things will be better. And to feel that sort of weight on my chest, physically I could feel it, like a weight on my chest, like something really terrible was going to happen. And little things were so hard to bear and to cope with. I thought, this is really weird, this is not me, what am I becoming? And someone mentioned as well at another point, losing focus, losing trail of thought, going into one place and then sometimes you do, everyone, you change room, whatever, you go somewhere, I can't remember what I was looking for, but you have a vague memory that you were looking for something. This was a little bit different. It was a complete blank mind. You cannot recall anything before. You can't even recall you were looking for, you don't have any recollection of anything. And it's very scary. You feel like it's been turned off like a computer screen. And you really do think that it's the early onset of dementia. So to know that, no, it's part and parcel, the brain fog, etc., memory loss is part and parcel, and it will come back. It won't get, worse and worse and worse until you completely forget everything. So we hope, really, that this show has helped you to...
Start a discussion.
Talk
to your friends, your family,
and realize that that's me as well.
Reflect on if you didn't think about it before, to see if it's happening to you or somebody you know.
Yeah,
we hope that
I do now. I hope
helpful.
I don't sound too much with my friend around, but whenever I cannot read anything that a woman above the age of 45 says about herself, her feelings, her emotions, and her physical pain, for instance, or discomfort. I cannot now stop myself from thinking, would you be in perimenopause? Because I have to now. I have to tell them, I've got such, I really have terrible joint pains and everything. And before I suggest, this is what I use to, like that oil or whatever, and the different groups I'm in, I actually asked them, said, have you considered that you could be, and then look at the other symptoms. Do you have any of those as well? And often, they're like, yeah, actually. So this is what, so we hope that if you've listened to us, go and read up about it, go and listen to our other show on the Wellness Show with Angela and Sofia on, Wellness with Angela and Sofia on YouTube and Spotify. You can help people around you as well as yourself. Inshallah, we're going to finish with Sofia reading her beautiful poem to the wise woman, and we will see you again next week, inshallah, at the same time, 12 to 2 on Heritage Radio 90.6 FM.
Thank you for listening.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome through the door of love and acceptance, going with the flow of life's rhythms, feeling all of the pain and pleasure of life with open eyes. Speak your truth and don't be afraid. Come from a place of care and love. Bring peace to yourself and others around you. Be there and follow the best of examples of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't be hard on yourself, as life is not perfect. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you regardless. Come through the door of love and self-fulfillment and kindness.